You've also got some other leading clients as well. I mean, I know of your work with Whitbread, for example.
Yes.
And the major efforts you've made there to improve the process and so on. Could you take us through that particular?
Yes. If we go back to the time when we created the sector-focused businesses, the leisure business was set up on the back of the framework we entered into with Whitbread. And at that time, we had the same sort of benefits accruing from working with the same groups of people again. We got the time to build the hotels down repeatedly. We were just picking off the obvious things, that the differences between different buildings, the different designs, learning from those mistakes. We got to a point where we got stuck at about 20, 22 weeks. We couldn't build anything quicker than 20, 22 weeks. And Whitbread was saying, we want it faster, because the moment they actually commit to spend money, they want the time between that and the time that they get their first customer coming to buy a room for the night. They want that to be as short as possible, because that's money they're paying for, money that they're having to pay interest on. So we were looking to get quicker, but we got to a point where we just couldn't seem to get over this hurdle. And that's when the lean agenda started to become applied, theory-wise being applied to the construction industry. The government was saying, well, the automotive industry have made such great strides, the Japanese have made such great strides by applying those sort of principles in that sector. Why can't we have those benefits, as we're the biggest single purchaser of construction? So universities, think tanks were being encouraged to sort of say, how do you apply these theories to construction? We started looking at some of those, and that's when we decided that on one project we would actually measure, do nothing but have one person dedicated to measuring exactly what happened. A very, very accurate, as-built history of the project. Exactly how many people on site, what were they doing, and how long did it take for every single activity. So we had a construction team building it, and we had this one guy who is now with Clip, as it turns out. He got so into it, he actually went and joined the organisation that is trying to push this through the industry. And then we sat down at the end of that project and said, so what do we see? Here's the program we had in theory that we set up, said we would build it, the way we'd build it. How did it look in practice? And we actually put that on the wall and realised that there was peaks of activity and then were gaps when hardly anything was going on site. So we actually had to look to say why was so little. And because we were in a framework, we could actually bring the contractors that we work with back into that process and say, so tell us, why were you doing so little in those weeks? And we got to that, we understood the fundamental issue that was creating the speed of construction, which was all based around the electrician. The traditional way electrician wires is they do it by circuit. So they want to put in all the lighting circuits first, and then they want to put all the power circuits, and then all the fire alarms, and all the circuit by circuit, and they wanted to do that on a whole floor. So while they were doing that, no other trade could actually do much. So we persuaded them, and it was a bit of persuasion at the start, because they thought it would actually cost them more money, and we actually had to pay the electricians to have a third man, because we were building these hotels with 2 electricians. We actually paid what they thought was a non-productive time to have a third electrician, and we said, we want 4 rooms, when there's normally about 20 rooms on a floor, 4 rooms completely wired before you move on to the next floor rooms, because that allows the plasterboard man to come in behind, which allows all the next trades. And we decided the 4 rooms was going to be our tact time, if you take the sort of lean terminology. And we suddenly broke the 20-week barrier, and we got down to about 16, 15 weeks. And the electrician, at the end of the day, turned around to us and said, actually, it cost me less, not more, to put that extra bloke on site. So we never actually paid him the non-productive time, because he actually got his blokes off-site and onto the next job quicker in the end. So over a year, he could build 1 more hotel with the same number of people than he could before. And we got the benefits that accrued not just from the electrician, but all the other trades then could see that if they worked in the same logical process, 4 rooms, move on 4 rooms, we actually got the whole thing built quick.